Alrighty, folks, you know I'm feeling great on this beautiful morning. Well, real quick, before we even get started, there are two wild llamas that are loose in my neighborhood right now. Yeah, there was a Facebook alert. My wife sent it to me. Two wild llamas on the loose in my neighborhood. So if I see them in the backyard, I'm not even stopping the video. I'm physically taking the camera and we are going to the backyard and we are going to look at these wild llamas who are somehow loose in the neighborhood. I don't even know how one acquires a llama as a pet. Where do you buy them? Who do you go to? Like, who's out here slinging llamas? I don't know. But anyway, folks, you know I'm feeling great on this beautiful morning because we are 5-0 with a push in my last 6 NFL tier package picks on my premium site. And the good news is I've got 3 more premium NFL tier package plays going off here this week. Listen, I know when it comes down to sports betting and getting the job done, I'm all business. I'm serious about it. But, yeah, if there's some big wild birds in my backyard, we're going to look at them. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into... Actually, are llamas birds? I don't even know what they are. But anyway, we're going to dive into some free content here. It's our Thursday game. Broncos Saints, 8:15 Thursday night. Denver is -2, totals 37. Now, folks, we did see this line flip. It was New Orleans -1 earlier in the week. Now Denver laying the 2. Denver 3-3 straight up, 4-2 against the point spread. New Orleans 2-4 straight up, 3-3 against the number. And as bad as the Broncos have, as bad as their offense has been, the Saints might make them look like $1 million. This New Orleans defense has been downright bad. They've allowed 103 total points in the last 3 weeks. And no real surprise here, folks. The Saints are now allowing more yards a game than any other defense in the NFL. And they're facing a Broncos team who did manage to score 34 points against Las Vegas, 26 points against the Bucs. And even though I wouldn't quite describe Denver as offensive juggernauts, hey, listen, the O-line's done a great job protecting the quarterback. They're 4th in the league in fewest sacks allowed. Now, injury-wise, Surtain and Palczewski, they are currently listed as questionable. Actually, they're out for the Broncos. Shaheed, Ruiz, and Werner are out for New Orleans. Derek Carr is also doubtful. A lot of, media sources have been throwing out Spencer Rattler there, but we'll see. I mean, I actually don't know who they're definitely going to start. You never know with these guys anymore. But anyway, total-wise, the Broncos did see overs in their last 2 straight. Overs against the likes of the Chargers and Raiders. They also saw an over in Week 1 against Seattle. The Saints on the other side, they are 4-2 they're 4-2 to the over for the entire season. Give me the over 36.5. Sorry, I'm just still befuddled about the wild animal news. But anyway, next game. Patriots, Jags, 9:30 Sunday morning. That's across the pond. Jacksonville -6, totals 42. We saw a half a point move toward the Jags in this one. They opened 5.5. Both teams 1-5 straight up, 2-4 against the point spread. That said, though, I'm just not sure the Jags are playing well enough to lay any type of points in any particular spot. Their defense is allowing 35 points a game on average in their last 4 straight. They're also allowing more yards a game than any other team in the AFC. But it ain't just defensive problems for the Jags. They've struggled moving the football. Jacksonville's in the bottom 3 in completion percentage, bottom 3 in sack yards. They've also been held to 20 points or less in all of their games this year except for 1. And they're facing a Pats team who they did cover against the Jets and the Seahawks earlier in the season. So I get it, things are bad, but they're not completely helpless. There are a couple of covers there. Raekwon McMillan, he leads the D in tackles. Kean White has the most sacks. And, even though there's not a ton to brag about when it comes to this New England offense, their top two rushers are averaging over 4.6 yards per rush. Now, injury-wise, Strange and Peppers are still out. Mapu, Lowe, Robinson, Stevenson, Bolden, Duggar, Godshaw, Jones, Jordan, Taki, and Wilson are questionable for New England. Jacksonville on the other side, Davis, Ingram, Etienne, and Armstead are questionable for them. Now, total-wise, I do think these bad defenses can help us get to an over here. Jacksonville did see 3 out of their last 4 get over the total. Meanwhile, New England saw overs against the likes of Houston, San Francisco, and Seattle. Give me the Patriots +6 over 42. Next game, Dolphins, Colts, 1 o'clock East. Indies -2.5, totals 43. 1.5 point move. Let's try that again. 1.5 point move toward the Dolphins in this one. This game opened at 4, down to 2.5. Miami's 2-3 straight up, 1-4 against the point spread. Indy 3-3 straight up, 5-1 against the number. Indy covered in their last 4 straight. Those were successful covers against the likes of Pittsburgh, Chicago, and Houston this season. And when it comes to this Indy offense, there is a lot of things that they do well. For one, they're doing a nice job of scoring points late. They currently lead the NFL in fourth quarter point production. They're also an incredibly disciplined bunch on offense. They've got the fewest penalty yards on offense in the entire NFL. And when it comes to protecting the quarterback, well, the Colts have done a nice job up front. They're 7th in the NFL in fewest sacks allowed, 4th in yards per completion. And they're facing a Miami pass rush who's been pretty much non-existent, just about. And these guys are in the bottom 5 in sacks, and they're actually allowing more first quarter points than any other team besides one, really putting themselves behind the 8 ball early. Now, penalty-wise, this Miami D has more penalty yards per game than any other team except for one. But the real issue with Miami has been their offense. I mean, these guys are hopeless without Tua under center. The Finns are dead last in scoring, second last in quarterback rating. And if you think their D was bad with penalties, well, their offense commits more infractions per game than any other offense in the league. This is a really undisciplined bunch. I know that, a lot of folks like the coach. They think he's cool. He's got no control over these guys. This is an undisciplined team. Now, injury-wise, Tua and Chubb are still out. Poyer, Kamara, Long, Ogba, Holland, and Achane are questionable. Meanwhile, for Indy on the other side, Taylor, Pittman, Downs, Sermon, Lamons, Smith, Speed, Odeyingbo, and Kelly, they are questionable for them. And when it comes to the total, the Colts saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the number. Miami on the other side saw an over a few weeks ago against Tennessee. Give me Indy -2.5 over 43. Next game, a little divisional matchup here. Let's try that again. Lions, Vikings, 1 o'clock East. Minnesota's -2.5, totals 51. Saw a 1 point move toward the Vikings. Opened 1.5, now 2.5. Minnesota's 5-0 straight up, perfect against the point spread. Detroit 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the number. And I tell you, I love a team like the Lions catching any type of points. I mean, if the Lions are catching points and they're mostly healthy, I'm backing them. I mean, I know the Vikes have been good. Like I said, perfect. But a team of the Vikings of the Lions caliber catching any kind of points, there's an exceptional value attached to that. Now, Detroit won their last 3 straight, covered in all 3 of those victories. And when it comes to offensive production, the Lions lead the league in scoring, and they actually average more yards per pass attempt than any other team besides one. Now, Jared Goff, he's completing nearly 72% of his balls, 1,330 yards passing. And no real surprise here, the Lions are in the top 3 in the league in total yards per game. But I'll tell you what, it ain't just offense in Detroit either. These guys have been tough to move the sticks against. They're in the top 3 in defensive rushing, top 3 in defensive quarterback rating. Kirby Joseph has 4 interceptions out of that secondary. Brian Branch with three picks himself. And they're facing a Vikings offense on the other side who does have a handful of issues. For one, they're putting the ball on the turf more than any other team besides one. Secondly, they're allowing nearly 3.1 sacks per game. They're in the bottom 10 in sacks allowed. And if you think the Vikes are going to throw it all over the yard, well, they're completing only 17 throws a game. But, listen, it ain't just this Vikings offense that I have issues with. This Vikings secondary on defense, they've been shaky at best. They're in the bottom 3 in defense, in passing defense, bottom 5 in fourth quarter points allowed in the NFC. The back door is always open. Now, injury-wise, Cashman, Jones, Evans, and Phillips are questionable for Minnesota. Hawkinson did participate in practice Wednesday, so keep an eye on him. Now, for Detroit on the other side, Skipper, Davis, and Branch are questionable for them. When it comes to the total, the Vikes did see unders in all of their contests this season except for one. Pretty good number for that trend at 51 total points. Now, Detroit saw unders against the likes of Arizona, Tampa Bay, and the Rams. Give me Detroit plus 2.5, under 51. Next matchup, Texans, Packers, 1 o'clock East. Green Bay is -3, totals 47. Half a point move toward the Packers in this one, open 2.5. Green Bay 4-2 straight up, 4-2 against the point spread. Houston 5-1 straight up, 3-3 against the number. Of course, this Houston offense, they have been quite explosive. Top 5 in passing, 6th in total yards. And listen, I'm going to make the case for both teams here. I'm really liking an over in this one, but I'm going to start off here with Houston. Once again, top 5 in passing, 6th in total yards. C.J. Stroud, we've been talking good about him all season long. He's thrown for nearly 1,600 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Nico Collins with 567 yards receiving. And I'll tell you what, this Green Bay secondary could be in trouble. They're in the bottom 5 in the NFC in defensive passing. But offensively, well, they got enough juice to keep them in this one. They've had their fair share of success moving the football. Of course, I'm talking about the Pack. The Packers run for more yards a game than any other team in the NFC. They're also second in the entire league in yards per completed ball. Jordan Love's thrown for a dozen touchdowns already. Josh Jacobs, 464 yards on the ground. Both offenses, a lot of good stuff. It's going to be a long day at the office for both teams' defenses. Now, injury-wise, Reed, Wicks, Watson, Kraft, Clark, Jenkins, Myers, Wooden, Alexander, and Wyatt, all listed as questionable for the Pack. Meanwhile, for Houston, Tunsil, Toto, Lassiter, Woods, Fatukasi, Phillips, Mixon, Alshare, and Ward are questionable for them. Weather-wise, warm and comfortable by game time. Good weather for an over. 3 out of the Packers' last 4 ball games did get over the number. Houston saw overs against the likes of New England and Indy. Give me the over 47. Next game, Eagles-Giants, divisional. 1 o'clock East. Philly 2.5, total 43. 1.5 point fade of the Birds in the early wagering. They were 4 down to 2.5. Philly 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the number. Giants 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the point spread. The Giants are scoring just 16 points a game, bottom 3 in fourth quarter scoring. When it comes to throwing the football, these guys are in the bottom 5 in quarterback rating. But it ain't just offense that's hurting New York. Their defense has struggled a bit as well. They're allowing nearly 5.3 yards per rush on the ground. That's second worst in the NFL. They're also letting opposing quarterbacks complete nearly 72% of their throws against them. That puts them in the bottom 3 in that particular stat. They're facing an Eagles team who Scores most of their points late. They're 6th in rushing. And as much as this Philly secondary has struggled, they are 8th in the league in completions allowed. Now, injury-wise, Slay, Goddard, Burks, Hunt, and Williams are questionable. Mailata is doubtful. Meanwhile, for New York, Galan, Burns, Neighbors, Lawrence, Robinson, Singletary, Slayton, Summers, and Ford Wheaton are questionable. The Giants did see an over 2 weeks ago against the Seahawks. Eagles saw overs against the likes of the Bucks and Packers. Give me Philly -2.5, over 43. Next game, Titans, Bills, 1 o'clock East. Buffalo's -10, totals 40.5. 1 point move toward the Bills. They opened at 9. Buffalo 4-2 straight up, 3-3 against the number. Tennessee 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread. The Titans did cover against Miami a few weeks ago, and I think they can cover double digits here. The money's been pouring in on Buffalo. It's going to continue to move. I wouldn't be surprised if this one closed at 11.5. And to be fair, this Titans defense, they've played some incredibly tough D. Tennessee allows fewer yards a game than any other team in the league. They're first in yards allowed per play, first in defensive passing. They're also allowing a league low 5 yards per pass attempt. Ernest Jones leads the D in tackles. Harold Landry has the most sacks. And they're facing a Bills offense who's second to last in completed passes. And no real surprise here, folks. Buffalo's got a bottom 5 passing offense in the AFC. Now, defensively, the Bills have had all kinds of issues slowing down the run. Buffalo allows a league worst 5.3 yards per carry. They're also heavily penalized on defense as well. Now, injury-wise, Adams is out. Spears, Jones, Levis, Burke, Snead, and Coburn are questionable. That's all for Tennessee, by the way. Meanwhile, for Buffalo on the other side, Oliver, Bernard, Gilliam, Jones, Johnson, Kincaid, Cook, and Hollins are questionable. The Bills did see overs against the Jets, Jags, and Cards. Meanwhile, Tennessee saw overs in 3 out of their last 4. It'd be Tennessee +10, over 40.5. Next game, another divisional matchup here. Bengals, Browns, 1 o'clock East. Cincinnati 6.5, totals 42. 2-point move toward the Bengals, open 4.5. Cincy 2-4 straight up, 3-3 against the point spread. Cleveland 1-5 straight up, 2-4 against the number. And as bad as Deshaun Watson's been, well, their defense has definitely kept them competitive. Cleveland's allowed 21 points or less in 4 out of their last 5 games. They're allowing fewer fourth quarter points than any other team in the league. Myles Garrett leads the D in sacks. Owusu Koromoa with the most tackles. This D is holding opponents to just 58% passing, second lowest in football. Very well could have beat the Eagles last week. They definitely did cover. They got the job done against the number. And they're facing a Bengals offense who likes to put it on the turf. They've struggled with fumbles. When it comes to running the football, this is a bottom 5 running team in the AFC. Now, defensively, since he's been pretty bad against the run, they're allowing nearly $150 a game on the ground, and they've really gotten little pass rush on the quarterback. They're in the bottom 3 in the league in sacks. Now, injury-wise, Turner's questionable. Ivy's out. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Chubb and Hines are out. Foreman, Hicks, Delpit, Wills, Ward, Ford, Pochich, and Hickman are questionable. The Browns are 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Since he saw unders against the likes of the Giants and Patriots, give me Cleveland +6.5, under 42. Next game, Seahawks, Falcons, 1 o'clock East. Atlanta 3.5, total 50 and a hook. Half a point move toward the Falcons, opened at 3. Atlanta 4-2 straight up, 3-3 against the point spread. Seattle 3-3 straight up, 2-4 against the number. And despite their current skid, the Seahawks still lead the league in passing yards. Geno Smith's thrown for nearly 1,800 yards already. DK Metcalf leads the roster in receiving. And no real surprise here, folks. The Seahawks are completing a league best 29 throws a game. Now, when it comes to defensive play, this secondary really hasn't been all that bad. They're allowing just a $195 a game through the air. They're in the top 10 in that category, and they're facing an Atlanta club who failed to cover against the likes of the Saints, Chiefs, and Steelers this year. And when it comes to defensive play, this secondary could be in trouble. The Falcons are letting their opponents complete nearly 74% of their throws against them. That is a league worst. But it ain't just, passing defense that's hurt these guys. They're also allowing 143 yards a game on the ground. That's bottom 5 in the NFC. Now, one more thing, folks. This Atlanta pass rush has been, non-existent. The Falcons are dead last in the league in sacks. Now, injury-wise, Carter, Hamilton, Anderson, Landman, and Simmons are questionable for Atlanta. Meanwhile, for the Seahawks, Reed and Lucas are out. Brown, Bradford, Forsythe, Williams, Chenault, Woolen, Maffei, and Murphy are questionable. Now, total-wise, the Seahawks saw all of their games this year get over the total except for one. Meanwhile, Atlanta saw their last 3 straight get over the total themselves. Carolina, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans. Give me Seattle plus 1.5. Seattle plus 3.5 over 50 and a hook. All right, next matchup here. It is Panthers Commanders, 4:05 Eastern start time. Washington's -7, totals 51. 1.5 point fade of the Commanders opened at 8.5. Washington 4-2 straight up, 5-1 against the point spread. Carolina 1-5 straight up, 1-5 against the number. Carolina's on a 3-game skid, failed to cover in all of those losses. And when it comes to defensive play, these guys allow more points a game than any other team in football. They're actually second to last in sacks per contest. And when it comes to defending the pass, the Panthers allow more yards per pass attempt than any other secondary other than one. And unfortunately for them, Washington's completing 75% of their throws on offense. That is a league best. Jaden Daniels has thrown for over 1,400 yards and only 2 interceptions. He's also run it for 322 and a handful of scores on the ground. And for those of you who don't know, this Commander defense has been tough to score against early. They're allowing fewer first-half points than most clubs in the NFC. They're also in the top 3 in fumbles. And they get to face a struggling Carolina offense who's dead last in fourth quarter scoring, bottom 5 in yards per completion. Now, injury-wise, Charles, Moton, Rame, Radigan, Johnson, Tremble, Jewell, Robinson, Clowney, Moore, Ray, and Scott are questionable. Brooks is out. Meanwhile, for Washington, Owens, Armstrong, Robinson, Brown, Allegretti, Butler, Farrell, Payne, Louvieux, and Martin are questionable for them. Both teams have gone 5-1 at the over, respectively. Give me Washington -7 over 51. Next matchup, Raiders, Rams, 4:05 East. The Rams are -7, totals 44. 1.5 point move toward the Rams, open 5.5. LA's -7, totals 44. The Rams are 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the number. Raiders 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the point spread. Vegas covered against Cleveland and Baltimore. Rams are laying 7 points and failed to cover in all of their games except for one. I tell you what, this Rams defense, they've been pretty pathetic. They're allowing a league worst 6.4 yards per play. They also have the worst defensive quarterback rating in the NFL. And they're facing a Raider club who actually completes nearly 25 balls a game. That puts them in the top 5 in that category. That back door is always open. The Raiders are the 6th highest scoring team in the fourth quarter. And I'll tell you, if you want to count out this Raider defense, you may be forgetting about their secondary a little bit. These guys allow just a $186 a game through the air. That puts them in the top 5 in the AFC in that particular stat. Robert Spillane leads the day in tackles with 62 of them. Trayvon Morrig's second on that roster in tackles as well. And you know what? That Raider pass rush, they might end up eating well on Sunday. The Rams are allowing 3.2 sacks a game on offense. 27th in rushing yards. Now, injury-wise, Whittington, Kupp, and Ward are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, Eichenberg, Myers, Jenkins, Malga, Miller, White, Crosby, Jones, and Parham are questionable. Now, total-wise, the Rams did see unders against the likes of Cleveland and the Chargers. I'm sorry, that's the Raiders. Raiders saw unders against Cleveland and the Chargers. The Rams on the other side saw unders against the likes of the Packers and the Lions. Give me Vegas +7 under 44. Next game, Chiefs, Niners, 425 East. San Francisco -1, totals 47. Half a point fade of the Niners. Open 1.5 down to 1. San Francisco 3-3 straight up, 3-3 against the point spread. KC 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the number. And as good as KC's looked, I do have some concerns. They've beaten up on the Saints and the Chargers in the past 2 weeks. Two teams who absolutely cannot move the football. And, listen, this isn't sour grapes because I typically like betting on KC. But listen, it seems like if they don't get an extreme amount of help from the officials, and I'm not a hater. I'm not a KC hater. I don't come on here and hate on them. We back them when they're in good spots. Pretty favorable calls. Listen, if they don't get an extreme amount of help from the officials, I can't imagine they're undefeated. I just don't. They've been the beneficiary of some very favorable calls and spots and non-calls. Now, if you want to look at the X's and the O's, this Chiefs pass rush hasn't been great, pretty anemic. They're in the bottom 5 in sacks. When it comes to takeaways, this Chiefs D is in the bottom 10 in forcing turnovers. And they're facing a San Francisco squad who can still move the football despite their lackluster record. The Niners are second in the league in total yards. And when it comes to throwing it, Brock Purdy averages more yards per completion than any other quarterback in the league. The Niners are second in the NFL in passing. Purdy's thrown for over 1,600 yards and 9 scores. And when it comes to running the football, well, the Niners are gaining nearly $160 a game on the ground. But it ain't just offense in San Francisco. This is a good D. These guys are 6th in rushing yards, 7th in completion percentage, once again, on defense. Fred Warner leads the unit with 50 tackles. When it comes to the injury list, Elliott, Moody, Mason, Samuel, Jennings, Collins, Luther, Wright, Mustafa, questionable, Pearsall, out. KC, Thompson, Omenehu, Pacheco, and Rice are out. Dan is questionable. KC saw their last 3 straight stay under the total. San Francisco saw unders against the likes of Arizona and Minnesota. Give me the Niners -1 under 47. Next matchup, Jets Steelers, 8:20 Sunday night. Jets 2.5, total 38 and a hook. Flip of the line in this one. Pittsburgh open 1.5, now catching 2.5. That was a 4-point move toward the Jets. Lots of overreaction to that Davante Adams trade, and I think a lot of you folks out there are going to be disappointed. Jets are 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the point spread. Steelers 4-2 straight up, 4-2 against the number. And I tell you, teams have had a tough time scoring against the Steelers. They're allowing only 14 points a game. They've yet to allow a point yet in the third quarter. And if you think you're going to sneak in a run or two against them, think again. The Steelers allow fewer yards per rush than any other team besides one. Deshaun Elliott leads the unit in tackles. TJ Watt with the most sacks. And even though the Steeler offense isn't overly dynamic, they are efficient. They're in the top 10 in rushing yards, top 10 in second half scoring. And they're facing a heavily penalized Jets defense. This is an organization who lacks leadership. And when you lack leadership, you see bad things happen like sloppy play and penalties. This Jets defense, they are heavily penalized. They don't force a ton of turnovers. You get rid of your coach, you make changes, you do this, you do that, and you don't see results. Now, offensively, that addition of Davante Adams, I don't think it's going to help these guys. New York has a QB1 problem. Lack of leadership, lack of production. Bottom 5 in the AFC in quarterback rating. Bottom 10 in the entire league in yards per play. It's a guy who's going to throw you under the bus, blame you, make things really uncomfortable in the locker room, real uncomfortable in the quarterback room. And when it comes to running the football, the Jets are in the bottom 3 in yards per game on the ground. But even if the Jets have a good play, they ruin it with penalties. They have the second most penalty yards on offense in the entire NFL. And once again, I can't reiterate it enough. The Jets have a quarterback 1 problem. That's a QB1 problem. Not a winner. Not a leader. Can't win with a lot of talent. Narcissist. Do I need to go on? Carter, Reed, McDonald, Moses, Surratt, and Conklin are questionable for New York. Highsmith, Casey, Harris, and Patterson questionable for the Steelers. When it comes to the total, the Steelers are 4-2 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Jets saw 4 out of their last 5 stay under the line themselves. Give me Pittsburgh plus 2.5, under 38 and a hook. All right, next game, Ravens-Bucks, 8:15 Monday night. Baltimore -3, total 49.5. We did see a half a point fade of the Ravens. They opened at 3.5. Both clubs 4-2 straight up, 4-2 against the point spread. And both clubs with some real good stuff happening. The Ravens lead the league in rushing. Bucks are in the top 3 in quarterback rating. When it comes to defensive play, the Bucks do have a solid pass rush. They're good in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, the Ravens, they lead the NFL in defensive rushing. So unfortunately, I have no free pick available for you for that game. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. It's going to be in that Chargers-Cardinals game, 9 o'clock Monday night. The Chargers are -3, totals 44. Half a point move toward LA, open 2.5. The Chargers are 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the point spread. Cardinals 2-4 straight up, 3-3 against the number. Arizona did see unders in their last 2 straight, 3-1 to the under in their last 4. Unders against the likes of Green Bay, San Francisco, and Detroit. The Chargers also saw unders in all of their contests except for one. Give me the under 44. And with that, folks, now it is time for our quick pick recap. I like the over 36.5 in the Denver-New Orleans game. Give me the Patriots +6 over 42. Indy -2.5 over 43. Detroit +2.5 under 51. I like the over 47 in the Houston-Green Bay game. Philadelphia -2.5 over 43. Tennessee +10 over 40.5. Cleveland +6.5 under 42. Seattle +3.5 over 50 and a hook. Washington -7 over 51. Raiders +7 under 44. San Francisco -1 under 47. And real quick, folks, we are 5-0 with a push in my last 6 NFL tier package picks on my premium page. Give me Pittsburgh +2.5 under 38 and a hook. I have no free pick available for you in the Ravens-Buccaneers game. Give me the under 44 in that Chargers-Cardinals game. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks, that Gold Club package, that's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to my exclusive Gold Club video each and every day during that time frame, absolutely free. It's included with your membership. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Unfortunately, I did not see a llama go across my backyard. I guess that's a good thing. I really don't know what I would do. I guess you call the cops. I don't know what you would do. But anyway, folks, really hope you enjoyed all that great free content, all that great free information. And with that said, folks, happy week 7 to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site.